Everybody ready? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barry Burton, Pinellas County Administrator. We're here today to talk about some proactive response we're having with regard to the coronavirus. As we're aware, safety of our residents and our visitors is our #1 priority. Over the last few days, several events that have occurred caused us to really take a reflection and look at the actions that we can take to provide reasonable measures to protect our residents, and also making sure that our visitors that are already here take reasonable precautions to maintain their own health and to issue the guidelines that the CDC has provided. This afternoon, following state guidance that we've been looking for, as you know, all bars, pubs, and nightclubs, they established that alcohol sales will be suspended today at 5 o'clock for a 30-day period. They also provided guidance that restaurants shall limit their occupancy to 50% of their current building occupancy, and that no parties greater than 10 shall congregate, and maintain a 6 feet separation from patron groups. Individuals also accessing our public beaches shall follow CDC guidelines by limiting their group gatherings of no more than 10 persons and by keeping the social distancing of 10 feet of a 6 feet separation. We are fully in support of this order and ask Pinellas County residents, visitors, and our establishments to heed this order and to work with us to make sure that all of our 24 cities, our Department of Health, Pinellas partners, and our medical professionals, that we implement reasonable measures to protect our public. We're implementing a number of these modifications into our internal operations to Pinellas County government. If you go to our website, if you're going to be accessing services, we ask that you look to see if those services are provided under their current form or to access as many of the online and over-the-phone functions as possible. Many of our operations will be curtailed or modified due to the coronavirus and taking the steps as directed or recommended by the CDC. We're also, at this time, announcing that our beaches remain open. However, we're working with the beach communities, the hotels, and the business owners to implement the CDC social distancing guidelines. This includes asking our visitors to practice social responsibility by maintaining the distances that we discussed. This means not gathering in groups larger than 10, keeping a distance of 6 feet from the parties, asking the hotel operators to spread out residents, chairs, and other types of beach activities to where we maintain these adjustments. We will continue to monitor and make adjustments accordingly as we implement these public safety policies. Today, however, I'm issuing a local executive order. Effective at noon tomorrow, we will continue with the state-declared emergencies, but all restaurants and other establishments licensed to sell alcohol for the consumption on premises shall cease serving at 10 p.m. This is one additional measure not covered in the governor's order that we think will help keep our residents safe. At this time, I'll turn it over to Sheriff for additional comments.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As you can tell by the orders issued today by the governor and here in Pinellas County, this requires a serious response to a very serious problem. We're asking for everybody's help, everybody's cooperation, and that the public help us to help them, and that they adhere to all of these recommendations. The order that was issued today by the governor affects those places that are predominantly bars, and I think that's consistent with the executive order that was issued here by Pinellas County in shutting down all places that sell alcohol at 10 o'clock. The purpose behind that is to prevent those large gatherings, especially when people are partying in bars. This isn't targeting alcohol. This isn't targeting people that are out there with their families having dinner and going about their business, but this is about those people that are gathering in massive groups and where the spread of this virus has the greatest chance of occurring. So the same thing applies on the beaches and with other aspects of this that need to be enforced. We don't want to have to take any enforcement action. We want people to do what is necessary and to abide by it. We're going to be educating the public and getting the message out to them, and hopefully part of that is this communication here today. But we just need people to realize, again, that this is a serious problem. It requires a serious response, and that's what we're doing. We have decided not to close the beaches here in Pinellas County for a whole lot of reasons, and we consider that. But under the circumstances, there was never any discussion about closing the beaches, and that meaning not allowing people out there. The only discussion was about people not being able to go on the sand and congregate. So the order that's in effect today that the governor issued goes to limiting that. We need to let that take effect. We need to let that work. And if people just follow it and they follow those guidelines and they don't congregate in groups greater than 10, they keep a 6 feet spread between themselves, that should work to accomplish the goal. And at the same time, just taking people's feet off the sand and putting it up on the concrete is not going to solve anything. And in fact, by restricting access to the beaches itself, which is what was discussed in the sand, it could actually make the situation worse, because all of those people who are out there then are going to be in restaurants, they're going to be in bars, they're going to be in businesses, and they're going to be in a tighter space inside. So we need to let this take effect, see how it works, and if everybody cooperates, then it will eliminate the need for any further consideration. So we're happy to take any questions that you all have about any of this.
Sheriff, can you talk about the difficulty of this all happening during spring break? I mean, you're not only dealing with the citizens who live here, but thousands of people from out of town and, teens, young people.
No doubt, and that's one of the reasons why at this juncture, this measure is the right measure and prudent, especially with the spring breakers who like to party. Remember, a lot of these people, they're not going out until a lot of us go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And so when you got hundreds of people that are crammed into these bars and they're shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, and everybody's in close contact, that's what we want to try and avoid. So this is one of the most challenging times that this could occur, is during spring break, when our communities are just full of a lot of people and have a lot of tourists. We, at the same time, also need to be mindful and respectful of the business community and the effect and impact that this could have on those businesses. So it's definitely trying to strike a balance. We're trying to do the right thing. We want to make sure that everybody stays safe and control the spread of the virus. But at the same time, all of this phrase that has definitely been coined of social distancing, of all these other measures, have to be looked at against the backstop of community tolerances as well. And so it's trying to strike the right balance with all this.
Do you anticipate that deputies and law enforcement officers are going to have to be out there monitoring and checking to make sure that people are following the rules?
Well, the answer is yes, but we're going to do it in a measured way. We're going to do it in an educational way. It's going to be in an informative way, and be pragmatic about it. We're not looking to enforce any of this, but if people, for whatever reason, and I hope they don't, are absolutely defiant about it and refuse to abide by it, then we'll have to consider how we handle that. But I'm confident that the public is going to react appropriately. They're going to abide by the laws and by the orders that are in place and make sure that we all stay safe. That's what we want. So we don't want to have to take enforcement action. We just ask for everybody to cooperate and abide by it. So we're going to be really heavily involved in an educational effort, at least at first, and try and get people to do the right thing.
And if you do have to make any arrests, could you talk about the situation at the jail and the population there?
So the population at the jail is tight. Is that right now, today, we have over 200 people who are sleeping on the floor. The jail is at capacity. The Florida Department of Corrections has ceased taking inmates from the county jail. So those people who are county jail sentenced, who would otherwise go to the Florida Department of Corrections, we can't transport them anymore. We can't ship them to the state prison system. So we've got somewhere right now about 70 inmates that otherwise would not be there, that it should be gone, but we have a backlog. I can tell you that across Florida, in all the county jails in Florida, there are about 800 inmates right now that are sitting in county jails that should have gone to the state prison system. But since the Department of Corrections has shut down and is not taking them, we can't do that. I talked to Secretary Inch of the Department of Corrections earlier today, and they're working on a plan to hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks be able to resume intake of these inmates. And so he wants to be a good partner for the sheriff, but at the same time, they're facing the same challenges as everybody else. So we're asking all the officers and deputies throughout the county to use good judgment, to use good discretion, be prudent in their decision-making. And if somebody does need to get arrested, then do what you have to do. But if there are other alternatives with notices to appear or other ways to address the situation, then they should use that judgment. So I'd say that right now we're walking a tightrope, to be honest with you, as far as the county jail is concerned in that population. We have to watch it extremely closely. And when you got already 200 on the floor, as they would say, there's no room at the inn. And we don't have people that are going out the back door as we got these people that are coming in the front door. And that's the problem with managing that population.
Now, will you guys consider allowing some of those low-level offenders to be released, or is that at the end of the road?
Yeah, anything could be on the table, but there are no, I want to stress that, no plans and no need for that at this point. We're trying to manage this in other ways. That would be the least desirable way to manage it. And there's just no need for it right now. We're okay right now, but it's tight. So we will continue to make those efforts and watch it. But at the same time, we've shut the jail down. There are no visitors, no professional visitors, no lawyers, no volunteers, no anybody. We've been doing screening at the jail for about 3 weeks now. And so I think we've taken the right steps and implemented the appropriate measures to ensure that that virus doesn't get in that jail. When you have 3,100 inmates in that close environment, needless to say, it would be a very serious situation if the jail got infected. The best I can tell from talking to sheriffs around the state, and I had a conference call with them a little while ago, is that there is no jail in the state of Florida that has been identified as having anybody in the jail with the virus. So that's a good thing, and we need to keep it that way. So across the state, we're taking measures not to mix people from jail to jail, not transporting people within, from jail to jail, shut down the transportation networks, just as the Department of Corrections has done, and just trying to maintain the status quo and keep everybody in those jails healthy.
You have a message to criminals who may see this as, the jails are full and may think that they can maybe get away with something because of the situation?
Yeah, that would be no, okay, is that, okay, we'll find a spot for them, and if we need to lock them up, we'll lock them up. So try us. That's my message. You won't like the result, or the food, by the way.
I have a question related back to the beaches. So I know, and I don't know if you or the county administrator can answer this, but I know there are some other cities around the state that have decided to close stretches of beaches, not necessarily the entire beach. Was that ever into a consideration for you guys making your decision for today?
Well, I want to stress that we did this in partnership with the 24 cities that reside in Pinellas County. So we have a conference call each day, and so we talk about measures, what are reasonable measures. So this is the first step in trying to work with our businesses, try to implement the social distancing practices, and then we'll continue to evaluate the effectiveness of those as we move forward. So we did this cooperatively with our cities. It's obviously our order, which has countywide effect, but we looked at alternatives. We came up with this as a reasonable practice.
Is it safe to say that if people don't heed these warnings and don't do what you guys are saying, that you'll reevaluate and you could close them?
I think the sheriff hit on a couple of really important points, is that the visitors are here, and so the reason the beaches are packed because people were here, other venues were closed, and so people congregated at the beach. Before they get on a flight and they leave, they're going to be somewhere. They're going to be in our hotels. They're going to be at a point. And so we see occupancy that is significantly declines come Saturday. And so we're going to continue to evaluate that, work with our beach communities, and make those decisions as we move forward. We also have our Vice Chair of the County Commission here, Dave Eggers, and our Director of Emergency Management, Kathy Perkins, if you had questions.
Is the county, are you guys going to pretty much just go basically off the directive of the governor, or are you doing anything besides the order that you announced today?
The order that we announced today, actually, we had come up with many of the measures that were included within the governor's order that we were prepared to go forward with alone. However, the governor's order covered those, and so we just simply added to the governor's order since that came down as a directive statewide.
Well, let me just add something here. I want to say this again cautiously. I want people to know that we have no desire, no intention, and all we want people to do is comply because it's in our, as a community's, best interest that these measures be effective so that we don't have to go any further. And it is, it's been said many times in the last several days, that we can bend that curve, we can reduce the percentages and stop the spread of this. But if people don't comply, we do have the tools available at our disposal to enforce the law, and people should know that it is a crime. It is a criminal offense if they don't abide by any of these orders that have been issued from the state or here at the county level. Not our intention, not our desire. We're going to educate, and we're going to try and get people to do what is necessary, and that includes in the restaurants. Under the governor's order that was issued statewide effective immediately, that they have to reduce the capacity from their authorized capacity by 50%. They've got to spread it out, no groups of more than 10 or more, and they have to have 6 feet distance between them. So those are also other important aspects of this that need to be adhered to. When people do go to the beach, is that no more than groups of 10, and they need to spread out. And the message here as well isn't just to the individual citizens, but it's also to those business owners, to the hotel owners, and those that operate all these properties who have asked us not to shut down the beaches because it affects their livelihood, it affects their businesses, and for a whole host of other reasons. So if you want us to continue down this path, then you need to help us, and you need to make sure that you comply. Again, I say that in a gentle nudge way, but know that there's also teeth behind it, and we don't want to have to use it, but if we have to, then we'll consider it. So don't put us in a position of having to use those enforcement mechanisms.
Sure, of any St. Patty's Day plans?
I think the best thing, I think the governor summed it up pretty well earlier today when he was talking, and anybody that wants to go home and crack open a Guinness and sit on their couch is that we'd all probably join them. So that's really the best place for people to be. And again, we also realize, though, that this is not short term. This is not what we see with any of the other situations that we really have ever dealt with. This is not 2 or 3 days. More likely, it's not even 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be an extended period of time, and so it's going to require a real change in lifestyle and some real differences for folks in how they conduct their lives on a daily basis. Look at all the retailers that are closed. Look at the gyms that are closed, and what people do, they're going to have to reconsider and do it in a different way, and have patience. Don't let those tempers flare, don't get themselves in trouble. But remember, we're all in this together, and as a community, as a country, and we need to look out for each other, and all of these measures are intended to do that. They're not intended to cause anybody any grief. While they do cause inconvenience, but that's what this is all about, is trying to bend that curve, reduce those percentages. In order to do that, we've got to do it differently. So.
Have you all had the conversation about the young people, they're out of school, usually when the summertime comes, the crime kind of creeps up. Have you had that conversation now that they're out of school and who knows when they're going back?
Well, yeah, and as you're well aware, and one of the topics that you've covered a lot, Sandra, over the last several years, that it does concern me greatly, and I expect to see an uptick in it because we do every time, is that increase in auto thefts and car burglaries in the young people. And that is a concern, and just ask that the parents know where their kids are. They're out of school for at least 2 weeks. Let's hope that the state, the Department of Education, can get them back to school, because if not, history tells us that we will see that problem, and it'll get worse the longer they're out of school. Every summer we see it. As soon as the kids get out of school, we see an uptick. And if they're out, we're going to have a problem, and then we're going to have a problem because of the juvenile detention center and all of what goes with incarcerating these kids. And so it's just going to make it worse. So don't steal cars.
I have a question for the emergency management director. I know a lot of the times, a lot of us who live here in Florida, we're kind of used to how to handle a hurricane, but this is unprecedented for a lot of us. So was there anything in your emergency planning that you maybe had to change or kind of create because this is a new situation for you?
Yes, I think the greatest challenge for us is normally when we have a hurricane, we can turn to other communities for mutual aid. In this situation, we really can't turn to too many other people for mutual aid. And I just want to say that the State Division of Emergency Management has really been incredible about leaning forward, trying to get us resources, pushing those down to us. And a lot of the things that we're doing here locally is, so how do we pivot? How do we continue to work to support the community? And as the sheriff said, the message for the community is one of kindness and compassion. We have to look out for each other. So build those networks, reach out to your neighbors. If you're running to the store and you can help somebody else, let's do that. Just to give you an idea of some of the working groups that we've put together, and we're looking for our subject matter experts and our leaders in our many sectors to help us pull together resources and to help one another. So we have a business work group, we have a feeding work group, we have a community wellness group, because we know that we're going to have to deal with the stresses of this situation. We have an EMS fire work group. We have a mental health work group, a homeless work group, a finance group, just to deal with how do we track all the expenditures and make sure we're capturing that. We're working on a home health group and a group for nursing homes and ALFs, hospital working group, and public information that's being led by marketing and communications, and the social distancing implementation that you've heard about here today. So in some ways it is similar, but the challenge is that we really can't turn to other people for resources. So our request to the community is, if you have a resource, bring it to the table. Let's be creative. Let's think about how we do things differently. And if you have a need, let us know, or let somebody know, so we can find resources to help you. We do have our Citizens Information Center open, just like we normally do. We're at a level 2 up in the EOC, but what's different is we're doing a lot of work remotely. So we're doing a lot of work, but you're not seeing a lot of people in the EOC because, again, we're trying to protect one another. But there's a lot of great work, a lot of great collaboration, a lot of stories of hope, a lot of incredible things happening out there. We just make that appeal to everybody. Let's look out for one another, and if you have a resource, bring it to the table. If you have a need, let us know.
Other questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.